Richard Machoka is a biomedical scientist who graduated from the University of Eastern African Baraton, where he was part of the Hours Africa team that won the 4th Nairobi Innovation Week Idea Stage category. And the team was applying synthetic biology in developing an early breast cancer diagnostic tool in 2019, where he was the team, currently Richard Machoka is the team leader of Team Upside Kenya. This is an IGM team that is going to participate in this year's competition. He has also been able to do some good work in the area of synthetic biology, whereby he's currently the ambassador of SynBio Africa, covering the part of East Africa, and he's passionate about synthetic biology and its application in addressing challenges in Africa, particularly in Kenya. He's also a member of the team from Kenya that managed to participate in the IGM EPIC program, where they were trying to develop a diagnostic tool for malaria, majorly using saliva as a sample. So he has moved the journey in synthetic biology, and we're going to have some presentation from him. Richard Machoka, you're welcome. So we can give him an applause as he's coming to give his presentation.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Richard.
My host is to enable me to share my screen, if that will be okay. Just allow me to share.
Just allow me to share.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Machoka Richard, and I will be presenting a new document that we working on, titled as View on the Prospective Opportunities Application and Challenges of what you want to achieve. So that is what happens, and maybe you can go to the next slide. As now we try to look at what the situation of synthetic biology both globally and in Africa. So as you can see from this slide, synthetic biology has been interesting, has given evidence from the conference so far. It has been impressed from almost all the other parts of the world, and Africa is still trying to catch up. And one of the ways in which you can actually see that we are still, as Africa, trying to catch up is because you have these different companies that are fully dedicated to synthetic biology. I'm not just saying consortiums of people who come together to talk and do synthetic biology. I'm talking about companies that are fully dedicated to doing synthetic biology. So you have, in North America, you have more than 200 companies, in Europe about 100, going forward back to those numbers. And as the previous speaker said, there are so many companies around the world that have been dedicated to synthetic biology. So the situation in Africa is a little dire because we do not have companies that actually are dedicated to synthetic biology in terms of producing synthetic biology products and things like that. And that is the gap that maybe SynBio Africa is trying to fill, and many other consortiums and organizations that are in place. Another way of determining the situation of synthetic biology in Africa is the IGM program, and the previous speakers actually alluded to it. The IGM program, when you look at the history of IGM, next slide please, the history of IGM in participation in Africa and compared to the rest of the world, you find that we actually doing this in relation to the numbers. I'll give an example of this year. This year we have of so many teams from across the world participating in IGEM. When you compare in terms of continents, but Africa we only have two teams. That is the team from Kenya, which I happen to be the team leader, and the team leader and the team from Egypt. That happens to be this happens to be the team. So on this slide, what you are seeing here is all the in my thinking from what I found, these are the only countries that have been able to participate in IGEM so far, as compared to the rest of the Africa. So you have Kenya has been able to participate twice, I think. From 2019, we had a team that represented Kenya. Uganda had to participate, but that was back in 2018. We have Ghana, we have Egypt, we have South Africa. Egypt has been able to participate many times before, so that is a really good plus for us. So next slide. So this shows that there is a problem in synthetic biology acceptance in Africa, and therefore there is this review that we're actually looking at. We wanted to find out from literature what is the current situation of synthetic biology in Africa. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? What are the applications of synthetic biology in Africa? And how can we be able to improve that the situation of it? So the methodology that we applied here is that we conducted this review using the guidelines of PRISMA, and then we actually searched major electronic searches in search engines including PubMed, SES, Springer, and Science Direct. And we actually identified relevant peer-reviewed papers and reports, and we combined them together. Then we had some keywords in which we actually used to be able to achieve this. And all these keywords were put together by operators, operators to be able to expand or increase or expand or reduce the scope of the study, depending on what we wanted. And so this is how the methodology works. And then this is the flow. On the next slide, this is now the flow of how we were able to do that. That's the study design. Next slide, please. So you have all these the different search engines that we use, the total number of papers that we found from each one of those. And after we found all these papers, we actually remove the duplicates from these studies. And then from the duplicates, you're actually able to now do a title screen. We did a title screen and then excluded some documents because of their relevance. And then after the title screen, we moved on to the next stage of abstract screen. And then some were excluded because of reasons of the relevance. And then after the abstract screen, we actually, those that qualified for full text screen were taken to that strip. And then some were excluded at that level. And then there are some papers that were actually added that were not part of this regulation because of their relevance. So one of the challenges that we found when we were doing this, trying to figure out these papers and all these things, is that you could rarely find papers that are specifically for Africa. And there was very few papers that actually had Africa in the combination of synthetic biology and Africa. And so once we found those papers that were from other sources other than the ones that we already discussed here, we added those papers into the study. So finally, we ended up with that total of 20 papers we are going to screen now that qualified totally for now the actual screening. So in the findings of what we after going through those papers and now trying to figure out the thematic areas that they actually talked about. In the next slide, you will see that we actually had several thematic areas or things that were actually addressed in these papers. One of them, next slide, please. One of them is, as you can see, ethical consideration came out very strongly. We can look at biosecurity and biosafety and biosecurity. Sorry, that's the title, biosafety and biosecurity. It was very prominent in that. Enabling technology is very important, and then the applications, different applications of synthetic technology. So this on the right side, on the pie chart shows the percentage of the number of papers that actually mentioned each one of these things. So you have like 25% of the papers, for example, had a talk on ethical consideration, and another maybe 17 talking about something like that. So these are some of the thematic areas that we're actually able to find from this the screen of this paper. And so what I'll do, I'll go through each one of these very quickly to just give you a general idea of what we were able to find in the paper. So when we talk about Africa lagging behind, we actually got a document from Garang and Okware, next slide, who actually were able to give an overview of why they were trying to explain why Africa seems to be lagging behind in synthetic biology. So one of them is that there was lack of clear priorities and investment strategy. So that means that the countries in Africa have a problem with having a clear priorities in investing in the technology and synthetic biology. Maybe because most of the policymakers have not had a chance to actually look at the possibilities that synthetic biology offers. And then there was short-term and long-term level financing of technology, research and technology, and development in many African countries. So that we have a situation where in most African countries, that the total funding that goes into research, technology, and development is less than $250,000 per year. So that makes it impossible to actually develop these new fields that is really required in Africa. Then there was issues of policy, and this actually relates to intellectual property. And in most African countries, you have like these intellectual property organizations actually in the infancy, meaning they're still developing and they have not reached a point where they can actually manage all the intellectual properties and that comes with synthetic biology, because synthetic biology being a field, an application of field, has a lot of intellectual property rights that comes with it. Then there's a summary of a few things of what the problems could be, including critical infrastructure and facilities. That means we're talking about laboratories, we're talking about the ability to actually have infrastructure that can handle synthetic biology level of studies. Then there is unreliable access to modern communication systems, then unreliable power supply and poor availability of chemicals and consumables for research. So this aspect of an availability of chemicals and consumables by research can actually be addressed. These are some of the things that we are recommending, that these collaborations between organizations can actually help in solving this. Then there's the issue of public acceptance. This is a big problem, especially having come from the age of controversial discussions about GMO in Africa and in many parts of the world. The situation that happened in GMO was that the scientists actually worked on GMO without involving the public from the onset, and so that by the time they're presenting their product, there was a resistance and from the public, including government officials and parliament and things like that. So these are some of the challenges that we actually found in the documents about why Africa is lagging behind. Just one of them. There are other areas that we're including in the document that I've not mentioned here. Next, if you can go to the next slide, we'll now talk about what some of the other areas that we found. So ethical concerns, and it was one of the very strongly area that came out in the papers that we screened. And what in the area of ethical concerns, one was the issues that were coming out was that synthetic biology is biologists are actually trying to play God, meaning that when you're actually coming up with a totally new organism that is synthetically made, as we all know, there was the famous great venture innovation in 2010 that prompted the government in the US to actually go ahead and form a committee to look into it. So that became a little bit of an ethical issue that was strong. You have a situation where Africa, as we all know, most of us are highly religious people, and so when something as strong like playing God comes out, it becomes a very controversial issue. Then there is this problem of what the product of synthetic biology. Is it a machine or is it a living thing? So when you are considering that you have actually engineered a cell, so is this cell still a living thing or is it a machine? When you have a cell-free system, for example, that does diagnostic work, so where does it lie? So that is an ethical issue. Is it a machine? Is it a living cell? Is it living or is it not living? And things like that. And then there was, of course, the fear of intentional mishandling of information related to synthetic biology. And this is actually addressed by the other section of biosafety and biosecurity, where you have like issues of dual use and things like that. It's an ethical issue. So the amount of information that is actually generated by synthetic biology. The question that was very prominent was this: are the scientists responsible for the information that they actually generate? So, for example, if I have a lab and we generate information about maybe say the smallpox genome or something like that, and we put it out there, are we still as scientists responsible for the information, how the information is used out there, or does our responsibility end with the science, and whatever people do with it out there is none of our business? So that was one of the ethical issues that came out very strongly. And then the use of machine metaphors. So you have in synthetic biology, which is really, really interesting and has not been done in biology before, you have the use of machine. Even IGEM itself is the international genetically engineered machine. So there was that in the paper, there were ethical issues that were coming out. How these are machines? Are they machines? Are they living things? The use of these metaphors, machines. We're talking about chassis and things like that. Those were some of the things that came out. Then we talked about, we also found out about the enabling technology. Is one of the themes of the results that we actually were able to do. Enabling technology, meaning what are the structures that can actually enable the use of synthetic biology in Africa. So what is there that within maybe Africa, or is possible to actually be enhanced to enable the technology of synthetic biology to grow and grow further? So you have gene synthesis, and we all know what that is. We have chassis. Chassis is like like the organism or in which all your genetic material actually could just be able to affect, implement a system. Then we have modeling using vertical and other computer-aided designs and things like that to be able to enable you perform your work. So these are some of the areas that we found. Then the next one, next slide, please. You have things like biosecurity and biosafety, very serious concerns about biosafety and biosecurity of synthetic biology. So in the papers that we screened and looked at most of it, there were some areas in the biosafety that came out very strongly. The dual use that I have alluded to, that is, and we've also had many about it. I think in the course of yesterday's presentation, we had so much about this. So dual use is the possibility of actually misusing the products of synthetic biology for unintended purposes, all right, which are actually harmful. And then there is gain of function, whereby scientists actually intentionally make organisms highly virulent and highly transmissible for research purposes. So the question is, how safe are we? Are we comfortable with these kind of discussions going on, or activities in lab work going on? Then there's of course an intentional spillover of our accidents in the laboratory and an accidental release of genetically modified organisms in the environment. So what are the measures that have been put in place, especially in Africa and in the African laboratories, to be able to make sure that these accidents don't occur, and if they occur, that we have the mitigation process in place. Then, of course, there is the issue of bioterrorism, which is a threat that all of us we face, and so that became also one of the issues that came out in biosecurity and biosafety. Therefore, the last part of this was the applications in terms of what are the current applications of synthetic biology in Africa? What are the future possible applications of synthetic biology in Africa? What is does the benefit of synthetic biology in Africa, does it outweigh the risk? Is it worth investing in synthetic biology in Africa? So one of the applications that came out strongly in the documents that we screened was healthcare. And so in healthcare, you have a very robust system going on, because one of the challenges, as I said, we were facing was actually finding papers that are dedicated strictly to Africa. And so what we did in relation to trying to figure that out was we wrote papers that don't necessarily address Africa, but as long as they address areas in which synthetic biology can be used in Africa. And so healthcare came out very strongly. We are talking about, if we are maybe talking about biosensors and then diagnostic tools, as most of us are working on. We are talking about the making of vaccines and things like that. And all the other aspects. Then there is agriculture. In agriculture, the applications are wide, starting from making artificial fertilizers to making organisms that can actually produce the nutrients the plants need, for example. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this in the course of today's presentation. And then there's manufacturing, very important in the making of either drugs, in the making of in the manufacturing industry. Then there was bioremediation in environment as one of the areas under environment. The bioremediation, the cleaning up of the environment that were already contaminated like that, and then also the energy, which was very important. So those are the areas that we found in the applications. And the conclusion, very quickly, is that we found there's a problem. Next slide, as I finish, the next slide is about the conclusion and recommendations. We are still finishing up on that, on the recommendations and conclusions. And so once we are done with that, the paper will be available in publication for all of us to go. Thank you very much.